I convert her to the Omegaverse world. I don't really convert her, but I read Dark City Omega by Elizabeth Stevens again. Why did I read it again? Because it's our book club episode. Yes. Tomorrow, in fact, tomorrow you can head anywhere you listen to podcasts and listen to the Dark City Omega book club episode. I am joined by Wiley from All My Friends Are Reading, another bookish podcast, and we talk about this book. I made her read this one, and I had so much fun. That's all I'm going to say about it here. Go listen to the episode so you can hear me and Wiley talk all about Dark City Omega. I needed something spicy. I was in a bit of a reading slump. It was Halloween. I found a spicy Halloween novella, Trick 'm or Treats by Reese Rivers, and I inhaled it. This is a story where we don't even get names. We have Blue, our FMC, and the why choose situation with black, red, and green. It's so spicy, and it was exactly what I needed on the morning of Halloween when I really didn't feel like reading. I know, I didn't feel like reading. It happens to all of us. If you're looking for a ton of plot, there isn't one. It's one night together. Blue is house sitting for this rich jerk on Halloween, and after the trick-or-treating ends, 3 dudes in mass show up and kidnap her, basically. Hold her hostage in this house, tie her to a chair while they're hiding out from this robbery that they committed. Blue was so much fun. She immediately goes, this is kind of like every fantasy that I've ever had. I wonder if I can seduce them. And does. She seduces them. They untie her. They bone a ton. All of them together, separately. No one crosses swords because the 3 men are brothers. So no one crosses swords. It's not weird like that. But they share her. They have her solo. And this crazy night. And then I'm going to completely ruin this for you. Just completely ruin it for you because it's a novella and who cares. She drugs them, leaves them there to kind of get caught. And it turns out she was actually just house sitting to rob the person whose house this was for her own revenge plot. It was incredible. I was not expecting that twist. She drives off into the sunrise and leaves them behind. Honestly, it doesn't really count as a romance because there is no happily ever after. But I believe that Reese Rivers will do us justice and give us a second story because it was perfect. Do I feel like it was a happily for now? I kind of do. I feel like the story completed itself. But in terms of traditional romance requirements, it doesn't meet them at all. One of the things I did appreciate about this story is that all of them admit that what's going on isn't kink. They might all be kinky. In their real lives, they engage in kink with safe words, with negotiation, with discussion. But what's happening here and now does not fall into that. And they fully admit that, which I appreciate it. There's no question of whether this is a true kinky relationship. No, this is a dark romance, super spicy Halloween novella. That's all it needed to be. This is the worst Duke in London. I call it book 3 in the Hellfire Kitties series. It's not what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it because the women that these stories revolve around pseudo call themselves the Hellfire Kitties. This is Effie's story, and it is with a gentleman that we have not met before in this world. Effie, if you have read the first 2 in this series, is the friend that has a passion for helping animals. She is the daughter of an earl. She's not really interested in marriage. She's had a horrible history with this town and with gossip. And it comes to a head in this story. Before I read the author's note, I knew this was a 10 Things I Hate About You retelling. It's not Taming of the Shrew. It's 10 Things I Hate About You. And I do want to make that distinction. If you're looking at Shakespeare as the original source, it is not. If you're looking at that beautiful 90s movie, yes, it is. Absolutely 100%. Effie's younger sister is a little bit more vivacious, is a little bit more fun, and wants to go have her season in town. She's been living in France, and Effie's like, nah, girl, I don't want to go. I've had 2 or 3 seasons. They've been terrible. I never want to go back. I'll be a spinster. It's great. A rich asshole wants to court her younger sister, and so he makes a deal with this poor duke. And I mean poor. He's literally poor. His father and then his brother, who's recently died, just spent all the money of their estate, and he is totally broke. But in order to fix this debt he has to the asshole, he says, okay, I'll get her younger sister to town for 6 weeks so you can, make your move on the younger sister, because her dad said, oh, can't go to town for a season unless your older sister goes to town for a season. And guess what, y'all? They fall in love, and it's beautiful. I always appreciate a historical romance where a woman takes her virginity into her own hands, where there isn't this pressure or this purity culture that, yes, absolutely did and still does exist, but eschews that. That's the historical that I wish existed, and that's the historical that I enjoy to read. What also threw me for a wonderful loop is that Gage, our MMC, is also a virgin. Not because he's been waiting until marriage, but he just hasn't found a person. He is an honorable man, and he just is so great. I love a Scotsman. I love a ginger. He is kind. He rescues her. He cares for her. And they fall in love. Does it completely backfire in the end? All the 10 things I hate about you? Absolutely. Does he grovel like a gentleman should? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I am going to take that with me. I am enjoying these books so much. Amalie Howard does a great job with this world, with this historical fiction that she takes liberties with in a way that I, as a reader, really appreciate. If you haven't read books 1 or 2, what are you doing? Just go read them. I've already talked about them here, at least book 2. Book 1 I might have read before I started making these videos. But you don't even have to wait for book 3. So go on, have fun, and read The Worst Duke in London. This book was fine. Oh God, that makes it sound so bad. It's not bad. It's like a solid 3.5 to me, which means it's a good book. But it didn't hook me, and I'll tell you why. This book is about Freya. We get Freya's POV for the whole situation. She is impulsive. She is rash. She doesn't think through her decisions. She just makes a lot of assumptions, and it's annoying to be in her head, especially when it feels like the stakes of this story are so high. This book is actually more fantasy than romance, I would say. Freya, at the beginning of the story, is revealed to be what they call an unfated. It is based in Norse mythology. In this world, unlike Greek mythology, gods will give what they call a drop of their blood during conception. It's really more of a blessing rather than, you're sleeping with the gods themselves. Freya has this divine spark, this drop of blood, and it makes her unfated. She is a wild card, as are all unfated, all people with this drop of divine blood. There is a prophecy where someone with her magical lineage will create a king of these Scandinavian Nordic people. The king of her land takes her on as a second wife, believing himself to be the person who will be that king. His son Bjorn is also part of that prophecy as her protector, as someone who will be by her side. And the whole story is Freya being used and her and Bjorn falling in love. She is sent on quests. She is sent into danger. Her family's well-being is threatened by this man who's married her but promised not to bed him because of his actual wife. It doesn't really matter at all. And all of these things happen, these battles, these decisions that she doesn't support, that she doesn't care for, but she stays because of her obligation to her family. She's to me. She's whiny. She makes bad decisions. She's mean in the moment. She doesn't think about what she's saying, and she's very hurtful. It's not an enjoyable person to watch. There is a twist at the end of this that I kind of saw coming, but I didn't see it in this way. The second book comes out in March. I don't know if this is a duology. If it's not a duology, I might wait until the whole thing is finished to see if it's worth my time. At this moment, I'm not rushing to pre-order the second one. This might be a really good romance for you if you are into fantasy that's just light on the romance. But for me, I didn't find the fantasy or Freya in the fantasy element to be enjoyable. She wasn't fun for me to be in the head of, and therefore I don't feel drawn to be in her head again unless I know it's going to end.